Love Life Heart Confessions with intuitive heart healer, the Love Guru, Blaire Allison. Blaire can be found on the web at loveguru.net and datingtipsfordudes.com. And now your host, Blaire Allison.
Hey everybody, welcome. It's Blaire, the Love Guru, and I wanted to welcome you to Love Life Heart Confessions. I love this time that we get to spend together every week, Wednesday, 2 p.m. Eastern. I bring you a very interesting and exciting guest. And today, I'm really interested in today's guest and her story. The topic for today is she's the good woman. She's the supportive woman, the woman behind the man in the spotlight. This is a story of a woman who is in her early 40s, and she's dating a man who's younger than her, and he is really known in New York City. He's a really known musician, we'll say, in New York City. And we're going to keep it anonymous to protect the innocent here, so that she could share freely. Because, you know, why are we doing this show? You know, I know the guests are very exciting. We get sometimes some outrageous topics. But the intention here is not to be a gossip show. We are really creating this space. It's a healing space, and it's really a learning space for the guests to be sharing what's going on in their love lives. You know, we all have something that happens in our love lives. A lot of times we feel like we have to keep this private, whatever struggles we may be going through, whatever challenges. And a lot of times when it comes to love, we feel alone because, I don't know, we're embarrassed to share. Maybe we feel like we're betraying our partner, or we're embarrassed, say we're single and we're ashamed of how we feel. But really, the truth is healing. And I learned that lesson with my website, marryblaire.com, which I put up in 2004, which was supposed to just be something, again, private, a private frustration for me. I could not find my husband, and I needed help. And here I was very publicly helping other people find their one, and I couldn't find it for myself. So you could imagine how embarrassing that was for me, how frustrating, that how come I was able to help other people and I couldn't help myself. So I put that website up, and it got out. It wasn't meant to get out, but it did, thank God, because that's how I discovered my truth. That's how I discovered what I teach now, the easier, more natural flowing way to attract love, what I call the spiritual way to attract the one. And that website ended up being very healing for me to be sharing my story. So now I am kind of paying it forward, I guess you could call it, and I'm creating this space every week that we have one of you guys comes on and shares your story, and for the benefit of helping you heal or helping you realize new truths about your situation. And that's what the intention behind this show is. So before we bring on our guest, I did just want to make some quickie announcements. I have a couple of events coming up in Lyndhurst, New Jersey at Mystical World. I'm teaching Clear and Cleanse Your Love Life, which is key. You know, whenever somebody comes to me and they're like, how do I start attracting love or a healthy relationship in my love life? I tell them, start with clearing and cleansing your love life, and or prepare yourself for love. Those products go hand in hand. You could get them audio downloads on my website at loveguru.net, or come to a live workshop where I teach. It's very interactive. So I have those two classes coming up. And what else? So those are happening in New Jersey. I'm going to be scheduling some stuff in New York City too. I don't have dates for that just yet, but stay tuned. If you're not on my mailing list just yet, go head over to loveguru.net and sign up. You'll see on the top right, when you sign up for my newsletter, you get a free audio and a free exercise, getting you started with like an audio and an exercise with the best kept secret to attracting the one. So that'll get you started on the way that I teach, and that's at loveguru.net. And another thing is, go check out at Barnes & Nobles or Borders I'm a contributing writer to a national magazine. It's called Travel Girl Magazine. And I know some of you have said, hey, I don't think we have that in my area or whatever. You do. You do. You just have to ask somebody at Barnes & Nobles or Borders. Like, even sometimes I can't find it. I need to ask them. But I have an article in there, the recent issue. It's called The Dating Guide for the Down Economy. So you could check that out. It's a really good article, if I must say so myself. So without further ado, let's bring on Cindy, our guest for today. Cindy, are you there?
I am there. Hello, Blaire. How are you?
Hi. Hi. Good. I'm glad that you're here. I'm excited for the show. It's a heated topic for me. So I'm going to try to keep myself out of it until maybe the end and just hear your story, because I do want to just have that space for you. So, okay, so you're in your early 40s. This guy is several years younger than you. You know what, actually, where should we start here today? All right, let's talk about this. How did you guys first meet?
I first met him in a gym. I work in a gym doing fitness classes.
Okay.
And I was, at the time, in a relationship, somebody living with me for about 3.5 years that I was not happy with anymore. But I had other things going on in my life, and it wasn't my main focus. And what will we call him?
This Mr.
The significant other? Significant other, yeah.
Oh, is this your current guy, or are you talking about?
Yeah, I'm saying, my current one. What do we call him?
Let's call him like Mr. Famous, because he is famous.
Okay,
yeah.
Let's call him that. All right. So here I get introduced to Mr. Famous by a client, and I only knew the name. I didn't know anything about him when she mentioned why he was famous, so it didn't mean anything to me.
Wait, let's pause for a second here. So when you met him, you had no idea who he was?
Not at all. As a matter of fact, I don't even recall ever seeing him at the gym, which is odd because he's a good-looking guy. But to me, when she introduced me to him, it was the first time meeting him, never heard of him, and it really didn't mean anything to me except anybody else she would have introduced me to at the gym. Of course, I would have said hello. That was that. Little by little, I would run into him. I always worked out around the same time, and all of a sudden, now that I was introduced, I would keep noticing that he's there, doing his workout, and occasionally we'd be side by side working out, talking about, just general things, and, little by little, I would try to get an understanding of what it was that he did, and I really had no concept of his popularity or really to the extent of what it was he did. So, and again, I was in a relationship, so I really didn't really care all that much, aside from just the casual conversation. Turned out he also was in a relationship for almost 8 years at that point with someone. He's originally from another state, and he was trying to continue a long-distance relationship that was also not working out.
Okay. Wait, hold on for 1 second here. I'm going to, and just so you know, I'm going to be jumping in and out.
That's fine.
Because,
I kind of ramble sometimes.
It's all right. So do I. I could understand that. All right. So, there's different elements here, and maybe we'll come back to this because I do also think the other side of what's interesting about your story, or actually with both of you guys, is that you both were in relationships when you had met, and then this kind of, maybe this is just coming out from what I know about your story, maybe, or what I've seen, is that like these flirtations are coming up even though you both are in relationships. So there's another element going on here that I'm interested in, but I do want to at least initially focus on the whole he's in the spotlight, like the topic that I put out there.
Yeah.
And by the way, we have so many callers on the line here, and I just need to say wow and say hey to you guys, and that's awesome. I don't know if you are calling to listen to the show. It looks like everyone's hands up, so I don't know if you're looking to say a comment or get a reading, but I want to let you know, and this is for everybody actually. Next week, the show is being out of control in a relationship, like being drawn to a man or a woman and feeling this powerless or out of control, like you're constantly drawn to them, and if you should be with this person or not, that you're really like on a soul level being pulled to someone. And that's the topic for next week, and I'm going to teach a little bit on that, and I'm going to be taking your phone calls, and so I'm going to be teaching on that and taking your phone calls. So if whatever dating questions or issues you have, make sure you call next week, and I'll give you readings. I'll give you intuitive guidance. I can look into your situation as far as your love life or lack of love life. So that's next week. And also, while we're making these announcements, which I had forgot to do earlier, if you did not listen to last week's show, make sure you go back and listen to that. That was an interesting show. We had a 55-year-old man on who's never been married. He hasn't had sex in over 20 years, and he was sharing his story about kind of giving up on love. Like, he really has just given up on love. It never worked for him. And I think that was an interesting show because I think that everybody can relate to that on a certain level. I think everybody gets to a certain point in their life and they're like, should I just give up? You know, hey, my love life sucks. It's not getting any better, and I keep on getting hurt in my love life, so let me just look at men or look at women as just friends, and let me just let it be that way. I'm not going to put my heart out there. So I think that on some certain level, everybody can relate to that last week's show, and I gave him advice. I always give advice, intuitive guidance at the end of each show, so make sure you listen to that part too. And that's last week's. That's episode 14. Okay, sorry. We're back to you, Cindy. So, so you didn't know, just to kind of recap, you didn't know he was famous. You didn't know who he was. You guys are casually getting to know one another. So at what, like, were you guys, did you feel a little spark? Like, were you interested in flirting?
No, I think that was the point of mentioning the relationship is because I wasn't necessarily looking for another one, although I was, in the back of my mind, open to it, possibly something happening down the road with someone. I knew I'd be ending my relationship at some point. But because I wasn't looking for it, when we did talk or meet, run into each other, I should say, we never planned it that way, but we had conversations about what interested us, the books that we read, our philosophies, spirituality, working out, kind of motivating each other, and also talking about our issues in our relationships and what we like or don't like about being in relationships or the ones that we were in. So because we weren't really trying to get together, we were completely open about things and discussed all kinds of things, and it turned out these things I spoke with him about were things I could not relate to with the person I was with. So it was almost like I think we both were mutually in that understanding that when we got there, we had all these things. We're like all excited about, this great book I read and, the author and this CD I'm listening to and, this motivational stuff that we were both on the same wavelength. And, we were both very motivated in our careers and pursuing and, and kind of like as a friend supporting each other from a distance. So there was no, there was no ties. Okay. There was no judgment. So. Were you, I'm just trying to gauge here as far as like when you're getting to know him, and I think, this is something interesting else that's coming up here, but when you're talking to him, did you feel like chemistry between you guys? Could you tell that he was like kind of into you too? It was in the first few months, it was very odd. Like, I just felt like we were really becoming good friends and he's good looking, and I would find that I would all of a sudden start running into him everywhere. We're both living in the same town. And I was like, it's kind of odd. I mean, I never saw you, never heard of you. You live in my town. Now that we met, I would run into him everywhere. We just happened to run into each other everywhere in town running errands. It was just bizarre. So that started becoming a topic. And then at one point I did mention to him that my boyfriend, my current boyfriend, was jealous when I would mention to him, oh, yeah, my friend at the gym, we were talking about this, that, and I really had no intentions whatsoever, and I wasn't hiding anything. So when I told Mr. Famous this, he made a comment to me. He's like, well, he is manifesting his own destiny, and he's going to make it happen that way, which was the first indication for me from him that he was even thinking along the lines of us even possibly dating it somewhere down the road. It was not something at all that we discussed.
Okay, your current boyfriend was saying that this new guy was going to manifest you two being together.
No, my current one was jealous, and when I told Mr. Famous while we were working out, I'm like, I'm embarrassed to say this, but, if I ever am here talking to you, and my boyfriend comes in, I can't really be your friend, even though that's all it is, and it's embarrassing, but he's very insecure, and he thinks, that potentially something would go on here.
Oh, okay.
So Mr. Famous said, oh, well, he's manifesting his own destiny, and that's exactly what's going to happen.
Right, and it did. Okay, so when did you find out that, who this guy was, who he was? Were you guys still friends? Or
we were friends.
Did he tell you I'm famous? Or
yeah.
How did that come about?
Basically, yeah. When I started saying, I don't really understand what you do, and, I leave here and I go to this particular job, and where do you go? And then he would tell me. He was very vague about it, and just didn't make sense, really. And, and a little time went by, and after a few months of being friends, he goes, well, why don't you just come down and see me one time? So when I finally did, and I got the whole picture, I was like, oh, my goodness. So, and even then, I just figured it was, okay, so, just like somebody who's in a band that has a following, their following thinks they're famous and they're great and they all know who they are, but you go out of the area and nobody knows who they are. And that's what I thought it was. And it wasn't until we were actually dating for about 4 months that we went away to another state, to a place that's like a very happening kind of a place where everyone's partying and all that. And people were just kind of coming around and crowding him and, all knew him.
Okay.
And I'm like, what the hell? Now we're together for 4 months already, and I'm saying, why do they know you? He's like, I told you, everybody knows me. I'm like, yeah, right, whatever. But now I'm thinking, oh, my God, to the point where I was, overwhelmed and had to just kind of back away because I was actually just kind of getting pushed away by all the people. And I was like, oh, my God, people really do know him here,
So let's kind of fast forward, you had fast forward us anyway, you guys are together now. So let's just fast forward, you guys are together, and he's famous, or you were 4 months into dating, and you realize how famous he is. So are you kind of giddy with your girlfriends, hey, I scored a famous guy? What are your feelings? What are your thoughts? Because this is turns into a trophy boyfriend now. Or did it?
Yeah.
Or maybe it didn't.
Boy, that's a tricky one. Well, a lot of my friends, my close friends and my family never heard of him either, even though we all live local. It was more people that I was, acquaintances or people from my other job that if I asked them, did you ever hear of this guy? And someone was like, oh, yeah, I've heard of him. He's been, he's been on TV a little bit or in the newspapers, and yeah, definitely. So, again, like I said, it took a while before I realized to the extent of it, and by that time, I already just knew him as the guy from the gym. I wasn't impressed, I knew him as a person before that, so that was just something that I just accepted, and basically either we were out just doing our normal thing, working out, the gym, grabbing something to eat, and most people didn't recognize, but when he was out doing what he does, that was most of the time that we were out in public, so people obviously knew who he was when he was performing, let's say. So then it's just the whole other element. There's not, it has its good and its bad. There'll be times where I'd be like, they'd be like, oh my God, are you the wife? Are you the fiance? And it'd be like, well, let's just say I'm the significant other, and I'd get good comments and I'd get bad comments.
You're the number one groupie, right?
Well, he would like to think
not
that.
Really, but that's
no, I'm really not.
But, okay, let's go. I want to come back to that in a second here, but I'm just wondering, I'm going to dig a little bit deeper here because you're saying, okay, you don't really know him, your people didn't really know him, but still, he is Mr. Famous, and you didn't have any fantasies of hey, lights, camera, action, money, this, that, power, nothing, no fantasies like that? Excitement?
There was definitely excitement about it. In the beginning, like I said, he wasn't so famous where he was, but he wasn't like wealthy or anything. He was still like, let's say, a struggling artist that was famous. But there was like right in the very beginning, he did say, hey, listen, I have, before we were living together, this Korean TV interview, and they want to interview my significant other, so can you come over? And there was like a translator, and this was going to be on Korean TV. And I was like, oh my goodness, that's pretty cool. And of course I had to tell somebody that I did that the next day, And little by little this was happening more often, whether it was Japanese interview or, hey, we got to go to this function tonight. And little by little it got to be bigger things, like there's this red carpet event Friday night, and we need to be there at such and such a time. So I'm like, oh, okay, a red carpet event sounds pretty like a big deal. Like, I don't really know what I'm in for here, and how do I dress? And so sometimes he would not really have details. He's not really one about that. All he needs to know is what time and, where and when. That's it. He doesn't really need to know about the details. So as far as he would tell me, just wear what you want. Why would you ask me that? Just wear what you want. What do you care what anyone says? Wear what you want. And as a woman, you want to know how to dress appropriately for an event you're going to. So there was a lot of nervous energy involved, excitement. And, of course, I'd get there, and there were a couple of times where it was a huge deal, and I didn't realize it. And all I got to say is thank God for Sephora in New York City, because I killed time waiting around. And I was like, I guess I'll go in there. And I started playing with the makeup, and I did a whole face of makeup because I really didn't think it was a big deal. And when we get to this place, and there was literally like 25 cameras flashing at the two of us as we walked down the red carpet, I'm like, oh, thank you, Sephora, thank you, Sephora. Because I really, I'm not one to overly fuss with makeup and stuff, and I just literally went in there to kill time while I was waiting for him, and I was playing around and put on a face of makeup, and I was like, oh, good thing, I might be like in the newspaper and all this kind of stuff. So there's some fun involved, yeah.
I mean, so it's fun, but so is this kind of like, I mean, if this was happening to me, I feel like I would have loads of different thought processes going on. So are you thinking, like, this is great, I get to go to all these functions? Are you thinking, like, I don't know if I really want to be, because you're in this role of, like, what's that saying? Behind every good man, there's a great woman, or something, or something like that. So you're playing that role. You're the one who's kind of supporting him in his shadow when he's out doing his famous stuff.
Right.
So, I mean, are you excited about that role? Are you even aware of that role? Are you, like, what is the thought?
Yeah, I do find it exciting. I also think because of it, it also brought a lot of attention to who I am and what I do and my website, whereas initially people would be like, oh, yeah, that's his girlfriend or his whatever. But once they actually would be like, okay, well, give me your card, or they'd go to his website, they'd see mine, and then it's like, oh, okay, this girl's got her own thing going on here. So that's a good thing. I mean, that's always been a positive to me. And as far as I've never felt threatened by his fame or anything like that, because as far as I'm concerned, he is desperate for attention 24 hours a day, and I'm really not that kind of person to, kiss a ass, or however you want to say it, to, like, I don't know, fluff your ego. I mean, I just don't have the time of day. I got my own thing going on, and so I look at it like, thank God he's got all this attention, because I cannot give it to him. So it's a good thing like that. It does bring attention to me and what I do. However, the downside, I would say, is that of course, I have my own insecurity issues. I've dealt with eating disorders pretty much my whole life, which I've only the last few years got a grip on and feel like I've finally risen above it. But the first few years I was with him, I had these extremely high standards, and his are higher than mine. And he can't meet his own, which means I'm nowhere near meeting his. So there's always that not good enough feeling. And then, sometimes the stress of having this function, and I'm PMSing, and I'm having a fat day, or I'm feeling gross, and all of a sudden I got to look good, and there's going to be cameras, and that aspect of it definitely has caused stress from time to time. I have to tell you that.
But the not feeling good enough, is that does that have to do? Is it coming from him as far as like your weight or how you look, or like are you not explain that a little bit.
Yeah, it's part of it. It would be, of course, my own insecurities, which, like I said, I've come a long way. However, because he is so much more obsessive than I am about himself, and he's not so bad with other people because he doesn't expect anyone to meet his standards, but because I am a fitness person, I am his significant other, and because he knows my standards are high, it's almost like it's expected. He expects me to at least stay up there for my own sake, and just, I guess, because that's what he would expect. So I think there's a lot of projecting.
Does that have to do with because he's in the spotlight and he wants you looking good in the spotlight too, or is that just in general?
No, it's just in general. It's his own issues, his own insecurities, and his own hang-ups that he's always had, which is probably what brought him to be in the spotlight, always needing the attention, and it was something that fed his ego. So it's just part of who he is, which I'm sure is something that brought us together, both being very obsessive and all that type, kind of attracting the same type of person. It has gotten better, but it's only because we broke up over it. We've had our issues where I finally said I can't take this anymore. I'm sick of the judging and this Jekyll and Hyde kind of attitude, and very rigid. He's very, very rigid with what his expectations are, his rules, and him trying to meet his own standards, and anybody that's in his life has got to be at least pretty close to it. So it's sometimes it's not easy being in the same space as him.
Right, okay. So what happens, like, when you go to these red carpet type of events, and, I mean, do you get tired of always talking about him or always playing that supportive role? Or what do you do when he's like, okay, you're walking down the red carpet, he's being interviewed, like, what do you do when you're kind of either pushed aside or whatever? Like, I mean, do you feel like an idiot? Like, what happens?
Sometimes, yeah. He actually forewarned me that when he was with his ex-girlfriend that there was a red carpet event he went to, and the two of them walked down, and the photographer was like, step away from blah, blah, blah. They just wanted his picture. And he had told me and that she was devastated. So I kind of already was forewarned that this could potentially happen, and I would rather avoid that. So if anything, I would keep my distance, give him his space that he needs to not be put in that embarrassing situation. If anything, he is more likely to pull me with him just because he wants me involved. So, I mean, it is good. He does want me as part of it, but I did I guess you could say I don't really require nowhere near as much attention as he does. So when I go to these things and I know it's about him, I'm fine with just stepping back. People are like, trying to take pictures. Two girls will be trying to take pictures, each other. And I'll be like, give me your camera, both of you get in the picture. And I wind up half the time I'm like photographer, just because it doesn't make me jealous. I'm very secure with him. As much as he's got his issues, I know that those are his issues, and he's completely committed to me. So he likes me being there, or he would invite me, and I could be okay with just stepping back. Yeah, it's a little frustrating sometimes where we'll be trying to have a conversation and people just jump right in, so I have to just kind of back off. And, either I'll talk to other people that are there, or I'll just hit the bar. I'm like, give me a drink, and I'll just kind of back away. And, sometimes other people come up and talk to me like, God, how do you put up with that? And, they'll have conversations with me, so I'm kind of used to it. The only problem I would say is that when I have a function, I am invited to something, and I would like my boyfriend to be there, not Mr. Famous, and he does not know how to switch roles. That's the problem.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. Okay.
That's more of a problem.
Okay. So you know what? This is a good time. Let's go to a commercial break here for a minute. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to check back in with Cindy, and we're going to talk about what it's like on the flip side. She's very supportive of him. She goes to his events. She's being resourceful, running to get her makeup done, last minute when she finds out that the affair is something bigger than she thought it was or that he told her. She's taking pictures of him with other women. Super supportive. So how does he act the other way around? So when we come back, we're going to go through that. So hang with us, and we'll be right back.
Do you feel frustrated by the dating scene? You go out to meet men, but never seem to find what you're looking for. Today, I'm here to tell you why that happens. Quite simply, it's because you haven't taken the steps to prepare yourself for love. See, all these years you've been dating what I like to call the old way. You search the internet, you go to bars, you ask friends to match you up, you go to singles events. And when you go out, you're always on the lookout because you never know when he's going to show up. But instead of Mr. Wonderful showing up, you end up wondering where he is. The Prepare Yourself for Love program is a natural, effortless way that brings the one to you rather than you're going out and looking for him. Get the Prepare Yourself for Love program now by going to www.loveguru.net. Get the Prepare Yourself for Love program at www.loveguru.net so you can finally attract the love you are looking for. When you've prepared yourself for love, relationships come to you. There's no effort or hard work required.
Do you hate small talk? Think it's boring, a waste of time, and goes nowhere? Most singles don't realize that small talk actually gives you a lot of information. It can be fun, easy, and a great screening process to know for sure if a guy is right for you. Introducing the Get a Date Success Package. Included are 3 powerful audios. Learn how to find a date in 5 minutes or less with someone you actually connect with. The program is quick and to the point. You'll be taken through 4 steps that will tell you, without a doubt, if a person you are talking to has the qualities you're looking for. No more wasting your time talking to losers. Say goodbye to dead-end conversations. The Get a Date Success Package also includes Getting Guys Flirting 101. You'll discover the power you have over men, not in a bad way, but in a way to get them to come over and talk to you. Once you tap into this power, you'll be a master at the dating game. You'll also get the audio Uncovering 2 Levels of Small Talk for Better Connections. See, most singles do small talk wrong, and that's why they hate it. Stop forcing the relationship. Stop forcing the connection when he's really not right for you. Learn what to say and how to say it, and you'll end up loving small talk. Get these 3 eye-opening audios that will transform the way you meet and pick up men. Go to www.loveguru.net/getadate.html. That's www.loveguru.net/getadate.html. Are you a negative person and tend to put yourself down? You say to yourself, you're not good enough, you're not pretty enough. Try harder, work harder. You know you should be confident and you want to love yourself, feel good, and be proud. But pretending to have high self-esteem just isn't working anymore. The Self-Confidence Giving It a Boost So You Can Get a Better Guy audios by Blaire Allison, the Love Guru, will help you do just that. Self-confidence is learned. And since you've learned to have low self-esteem, you can also learn how to have high self-esteem. This is a must because low self-esteem affects all areas of your life. It affects your happiness with life or unhappiness. How many men are attracted to you or not attracted to you, the types of guys you date, and the types of guys you can realistically get. The Self-Confidence audios cover 3 powerful healing techniques that will heal your heart. After you've mastered the healing techniques, you'll be taken through over 10 everyday confidence boosters. And this makes boosting your confidence easy and fun. You'll learn how to retrain your mind. Boost your confidence and feel better about yourself today. Get confidence at www.loveguru.net. Once again, www.loveguru.net.
Alrighty, we're back. Welcome back, everybody. It's Blaire, the Love Guru, and you're listening to Love Life Heart Confessions. Today we have on a woman who's in her early 40s, is dating a man who's several years younger than her, who is in the spotlight. We were calling him Mr. Famous. He's a famous musician in New York City, but he is known throughout the country and I guess throughout the world because he does these interviews from, for other countries too. So we're talking to her about what it's like to be the woman behind the man in the spotlight. You know, we see this a lot out in our society. You know, this is maybe the more traditional role for a woman. Now, I know she's dating a famous guy, but let's just look at the roles of women in our society. What are we brought up by our society, by our family members? What are we brought up to believe that us women, what we have to do? We need to serve our men, right? I mean, maybe this is a little bit extreme on how I'm saying it, but if you think about what your thought processes are, the man, you want to get a strong and powerful man, a successful man. And then what's your role? What's the female's typical role? Well, to stay home, have kids, make dinner for him, clean up, whatever. Things along those lines. Yes, maybe that's 1950s thinking, but that thought process is still around now. Maybe you have a career, but if you're in a relationship or when you get into one, you're looking for a man who's more successful than you. Think about it. Are you? Is that true for you or not? The other thing is whose career comes first? Again, if you're in a relationship or in the future in a relationship, whose career is more important? Who makes the sacrifices, him or you? I'm watching this reality show, and I know this is kind of dating this radio show now. If you listen to it back in archives, you're going to be like, what the heck is she talking about? But there's a dating reality show on now which is called More to Love. And it's basically like The Bachelor, where they have a bunch of single women that are competing for this one guy. But More to Love is for bigger-sized people finding love. And last night, which I thought was very interesting, this is how a lot of things happen in my life, synchronicities, and this is what will happen for you. And for those of you who already are studying under me, once you learn the spiritual way to attract the one, you have nonstop synchronicities happening in your life. Good things coming in, you're meeting people who are helping you along your way, that are perfect matches for you. And this is both the opposite sex for dating purposes, this is for job opportunities, this is for everything. This is how I meet everybody and all of this. But anyway, related to that, I was watching this show last night. We had this radio topic scheduled for 2 weeks now. And last night I was watching More to Love. Now, what happened on that show? Well, this woman, one of the women contenders for this guy, is a plus-size model, and she travels a lot for work. And they were talking about this scenario that, hey, sometimes she has to go to another state or another country for a month to go do photo shoots, and she has to go wherever the work is. Now, what happened? Well, the guy ended up eliminating her. Now, we don't know what happens behind the scenes. These TV shows are edited. Who knows? Who knows what happens? I used to work in television. I used to work in production and casting, so I have an idea of what really is happening here. But we don't know what their interactions were as far as if they weren't connecting on other things. But he was saying that he did not she was like, well, maybe sometimes you'll come with me. When I go away for a month to another country and I do a photo shoot, you could come with me. And he made a face when she was saying that. And he was like, well, if I could get away from work. And if we reverse that, again, we see this more in our society, that women are the ones who are up and going away wherever the guy's career may take them. And if anyone's making a sacrifice, a lot of times, again, women are brought up that we will make the sacrifice rather than the man. So back to Cindy here, and let's hear how he is you have a career, or are you staying at home and taking care of the kids or whatever? What's going on there?
He's home a lot more than I am with his hours. I am literally running around like a chicken without a head every day. So I do have 3 kids, which are a little bit bigger now, all teenagers, and so things are a little easier with me not having to worry about, babysitting and all that kind of stuff. But I train clients, and I teach classes, and I work in a hospital, and I was going to school, and I write for a magazine, and I work on fitness videos, and on and on and on. So I'm just one of those people who can't sit still. So when he says he's got this thing, like he was hired to go to another state for something for a few days, and he wants me to come, they'll pay for all of it, There have been times where, I just can't. I can't get anybody to switch my hours around, and sorry, I can't go. There have been other times where I would try, like, to go to Australia. I flew my mom in from Florida to come stay with my kids. I did all kinds of favors with everyone at work to get the week off because I wanted to go to Australia. So I do what I can when I can to go with him, and he also realizes that when I can't, I can't, and, he's fine with that. He just goes and does his business, and, he's used to being by himself. So if he's not here or at the gym or doing his job, he literally sits and reads for hours at a time, and he's not the kind of guy that has to be out clubbing or out in a bar picking up girls. He's totally not like that at all. He's so into his own thing, and so am I, which was one of the things that kind of worked out for us, that I was happy to know he's so wrapped up in his career, because anybody in my past was not able to accept that I'm busy. I am too busy to just be there all the time. I can't always give you attention. I can't drop what I'm doing because you have no hobbies and you're sitting there waiting for me for 3 hours. I'm sorry. Get a hobby, get a book, and when I get home at 9 o'clock, I'll spend time with you. But, and that was what I was finding as a problem, being divorced with 3 kids and running around doing a million things. Nobody could deal with my schedule, and him having his own thing going on was a good thing. But now it's almost like it's back to, if anything, he's the one home, he's cleaning the house, and, we just actually had a conversation recently. I had all these different things going on and socializing and stuff like that, and he's like, okay, so I'm cleaning the house and I'm home with the kids, and, I'm sitting home waiting, and where are you?
Right.
So,
but tell me the relationship as far as your career. What kind of, how do you need him to be involved in your career, or how is he involved in your career, and how does that dynamic work?
He's really not. He's not. The only thing that he has anything to do with my career is that because he gets a lot of traffic to his website, it brings it to mine, and because of the functions I go to, it gives me better networking. But really, honestly, he has nothing to do with my career. I do my thing, he does his. We meet up at the end of the day and, spend some time together. He lives here, we sleep together, wake up, and I run out the door before he does. But, let's say a friend or a coworker, or my job has a Christmas party or something, if it's not about him, if he's not going to get attention or it's boring to him. For him to go to something to just sit and socialize and talk to people he doesn't really know, unless he just has no desire to do it whatsoever. Once he's there, okay, if they all start talking to him about him and his stuff, well, then he's entertained. But if we didn't tell anybody and he had to just sit there and be a normal person, it's almost like he doesn't know what to do with himself. So it got to a point where, even just a normal thing, okay, friends of mine are meeting at such and such a bar for happy hour, so do you want to come? No, why would I do that? Okay, fine. Right. Well, see you later. I'm going. And in the beginning, I would not go because I would feel a sense of an attitude when I got home, that it was almost like a little way of manipulation that he's going to be upset that I'm just not coming home. I'd rather spend time with friends sitting at a bar having some drinks than being home. So I'd get a little attitude when I got home, which would prevent me from doing it very often until I started getting to the point where, you know what, I'm getting a little fed up. I'm sick of going to parties by myself. I'm hanging out with friends. I have to do things with the kids by myself. So unless it's me, him, and his thing, or me and him home watching TV or reading together or something like that, it's me and my kids. It's me and my friends. And, that's just, that could lead to trouble. It's not always a good thing. If I have to do everything I want to do and find someone else to do it with, that could be bad.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I just want to give a heads up here. We have 15 minutes left with the show.
Okay.
And usually at this time is when I kind of pop in and, I'm the love guru, so I give intuitive guidance, direction, exercises, something or other, whatever impressions come up, as far as, what can I help you with in your relationship? What would you like help with? Anything that I could be of service to you in the remaining of time here.
All right. I think, let me fast forward to very recent then, because that was that was what was occurring, let's say, after 2-3 years. By the 4th year, we're together almost 5. So, like I said, I started getting fed up, pulled away, and got to the point where I just didn't consult him on anything I'm doing. I'm going to do what I want to do, and I'll see you later. He realized it, and all of a sudden got a little nervous. We did have a couple little breakups, and since then I think he realized that it's not going to work, and if he wants me in his life, he's going to have to change a little bit. And now it's at the point where he's doing everything under the sun to try to be that person. And I'm trying to be as happy about it now as I would have been 3 years ago, because I know he's a good guy, and something brought us together. But there's also, sometimes a fine line of knowing, do you have a wall up because you're hurt, or is the wall up because you're done? And, and if you really loved somebody at one point, chances are if you leave them, a couple months down the road, a couple weeks down the road, you might totally regret it. So, sometimes you just don't know what to do, and that's where I find I am.
Is that what you're thinking now? Is like, are you not sure where your relationship's going or where you want it to go?
I am trying hard to appreciate that he is now being what I wanted him to be all along. But it took a while for him to get to that point. It took me pulling away for quite a while. So I recognize that he is trying, and I'm trying to get myself back in the mindset, to appreciate it and work on it.
Well, what kind of relationship do you want with this guy? Are you guys heading towards marriage? Are you taking it day by day with one another?
He's very anti-marriage. He's just something we agreed on from the beginning. However, after I was with him for 2 years, I'm the kind of person that I kind of jump into things head first. I'm in love. That's it. Let's get married. And that's how I've done everything my whole life, very impulsive. And then, after 8-9 months, a year, I'm like, oh, my God, what the hell did I do? And I'm stuck in something there's no way in hell I'm going to marry this person. And I stay with him for another 3 years. So here I got into this relationship with him, not thinking either of us wanted to get married. But after about 2 years, I said, oh, my God, I still feel like if he were to ask me, no matter how much we both say we don't want to be married, I would have probably cried out of excitement, and I would have said yes. But he was still dead set against, no, I'm never going to get married. I have no desire to be married, and that was another thing that pulled me away. Like, I understand not maybe believing in the Constitution, but how do you feel that strongly that you will never change your mind? And now it's at a point where I can almost see him at some point in this relationship. He feels like he loves me, wants to be with me forever, and doesn't want to lose me. And he's verbalized it many times, more strongly, more recently since after these breakups. No, I never want to lose you. I want you to always be in my life, and that's that. Whether it's married or not, to me, it's just like marriage is stupid. So that's just a piece of paper. But he wants me in his life forever. And like I said, I would have probably cried and accepted it a few years ago. And now I'm like, I don't have the confidence in accepting any proposal from anybody, knowing that things change. I was married for 7 years, and knew probably after a year, like, oh my God, what did I do? I've been engaged twice after that, and again, almost like, oh my God, thank God I didn't go through with it. So now it went from totally high to on a little bit of a downward slope, trying to, work through things. So as far as I'm concerned, I can't imagine getting back to a point where I would lock into something that's not 100%. It's hard to take that plunge. Unless you've been in a great relationship for years, or you accept a proposal like during that infatuation stage of relationship. And I'm sure that's just me, and it's kind of crazy, but I don't know.
This is interesting. I feel like this is like part 2 of your interview. We may have to have you back another time, because we have 10 minutes left on the show. And as far as, our initial topic, I think that you did a great job of sharing with us, and that was wonderful and helpful. And now we're kind of heading into this new territory as far as, and it's something that I'm interested in also. And we were emailing back and forth about it a little bit as far as this infatuation stage, being really into the relationship for maybe the first 2 years, and then giving, really supportive, I guess that's that supportive role, really supportive, doing things for the guy, really interested and involved, and then it kind of drops off. And it's like, why does it drop off? And it sounds like that's where the point is in your life right now, that it's kind of like, and I could just be assuming things incorrectly here, reading things incorrectly, but it sounds like you're at a point that you're really questioning as far as what's the story with relationships? Like, is there an expiration date on them or something, and do I need to stick with this and figure it out, or just be okay with how it is, or do I keep on chasing that high?
Yeah, well, there's part of that, but I do completely believe in love. I don't find that it's a difficult thing to find, maybe because I do get infatuated easily. And I think that because I'm just the kind of person that I give 100% in everything that I do, like total type A person, well, from my friends or coworkers, people from the outside looking in tell me that, that I go overboard, and a lot of times it's not reciprocated, or I don't wake up and smell the coffee sometimes when I need to back off, or maybe this is not what's good for you, you deserve better, that kind of feedback I get. So, and, I do have a little bit of a history of some bad relationships, domestic violence, and that type of thing. So sometimes it's hard to judge, well, it's not that bad, so when is it? When is it? There's a fine line. Is it just things that need to be worked on? I'm a very flexible person and very understanding and tolerant, I should say. So there's a fine line sometimes between knowing when is it time to get out, or when it, and you're being overly compensating for somebody, or do you see something the other people don't see and it's worth working on, And if you choose to get out, are you going to regret it? I hate regrets. I really do. So, and I told you opened a whole can of worms there, didn't I?
Well, I think it's interesting. I mean, you're a thinker and you're a truth seeker like me. Yeah. I mean, I'm always examining. Well, what's the truth here? What's the real thing that's going on? And we're not going to be able to come to that in 7 minutes. Although that would be wonderful if things could work like that. I think that what we'll say is this is a conversation that's to be continued. Whether, maybe we'll have you back on, we'll talk about this side of it as far as being in these relationships that you're gung-ho and then it drops off, and going from marriage, divorce, proposals. I mean, this is a big history here. So so whether having you back on, or maybe this is just a topic that I'll talk about one time on the show, and you guys could call in and I'll give guidance, or you guys could just maybe call in and share your stories or share your opinions. So this is where I'm going to turn it actually to everybody listening. Send me your emails as far as where would you like me to go. We kind of took a new turn. This is the first time it's happened on this show, which is wonderful. This is a new show still. So let me hear from you as far as what would you like me to do as far as the next step. What would be interesting to you? Where would you like for me to go with this topic that just came up at the end here? On a side note, make sure that you, because we're wrapping up a little bit here, make sure you favorite this show when you're listening to it right now so that you're reminded of the show and the topic every week. You'll get an email in your inbox when you click on favorite on Blog Talk Radio. I do want to give my website again, loveguru.net. Make sure you sign up for the newsletter so you get a free audio and exercise. And back to Cindy here. We have 5 minutes. I I am really a little bit speechless. I don't really know where. I don't really know where to go in the next 5 minutes here as far as wrapping up, because I would like to help you and help explore as far as where do you go with this relationship, and then there's that fear of regret. I think that you need to, I think the question here is, that I'm going to send back your way, is if you were just to answer without thinking, if you were to answer, I'm going to ask you a question and just answer whatever comes out on the top of your head here. Are you happy in your relationship right now?
Well, it's definitely not a 10 on a scale of 1 to 10.
Mhm.
No, I would say I'm probably going to say it's a 5, which is probably why I'm walking the fence.
And is it boredom, or is it like the snazziness is over, like the shine and the shimmer?
No. I'm used to being with the same person for a long time. My whole life I've been in a long-term relationship, so it's not that. It's just that when you, like I said, I tend to stay in things much longer than I should, and then it gets to the point where it's totally not good and I'm still there, and then I pull away, and the person all of a sudden freaks out like they're losing me and does everything they can to make it better, and it's hard to go backwards. So my whole life I've stayed in relationships way longer than I should have. If I would get out when I first say I'm not happy, this show would not even be occurring. But that's not the case. I kind of drag it out, and then they have this turnaround every single time. And, then I'm faced with this position like, okay, now they're trying to do everything I want them to do when I was still happy about it. So now what?
Right, okay. What's coming up for me is that my feeling is that, and I'm going to try to say this as quickly as possible because we have 2 minutes now. I'm getting the warning here. My feeling is that when you get into a relationship, you're not looking for certain things that you need, that you want in a partner, and that you get wrapped up in a relationship, you get excited, you start going with it. It's maybe the feeling of let me win him over, or let me get into a relationship. It's that kind of going after the goal, rather than really assessing who the partner is and really knowing what type of partner that you need.
I agree.
And then what happens is, after time goes by and you're out of that kind of honeymoon phase, as you're calling it, or as a lot of people call it, you get out of that honeymoon phase, you're able to really truly see someone for who they are, and it's kind of like, oh, he's not really giving me what I want. He's really not satisfying my needs. And then that's when you're maybe, oh man, we have 1 minute left. That's when you're coming to your senses and being like, hey, what about me? I have these needs. Maybe I'm not interested, whatever. You pull away. They're already sucked in. They try to change. And it's this pattern of not really evaluating, not really being able to assess the partner from day one, and stopping the relationship that might not have been good for you from the beginning.
Totally right. Totally correct.
Yeah. So, okay, so let's leave it at that. We have like 60 seconds here. And that's just going to be, maybe listen to this again, the last final notes, because that's directly like channeled information, because it just comes through when it comes through and after I hear what's going on, But like, start thinking about that as far as what am I really needing in a relationship, because I think you're fully aware and conscious of it now, and you want to start making the list now when you're, quote, awake, not in dreamy land.
Yep.
On that note, we're going to have to say goodbye. I want to thank you for being my guest on the show today and sharing your story.
My pleasure.
And I want to send you lots of love, and we'll see where this goes, whether you come back on again, or maybe we'll do a private session. I do the healing sessions. Maybe we'll take it off the air or whatever. And I want to hear from you guys, too, what you want me to do as far as moving forward with this topic. It comes up a lot. With that said, I want to wish you all the best in love. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Love Life Heart Confessions. with intuitive heart healer, the love guru, Blaire Allison. Blaire can be found on the web at loveguru.net and datingtipsfordudes.com. You can also connect with Blaire on Facebook and Twitter. See you there.